You're listening to The Brand Compass, conversations to navigate your way to building a brand fit for purpose and poised for success. Here's your host, Shelley Rostlund.
Hello there, my friend. How has your week been treating you? I am rather weary, I have to say. I'm in 3 different business communities. I've been doing a lot of connecting with new people, so trying to get those one-to-ones in the diary, which are very important. But gosh, I really need my mole time now, right? It's such a balance trying to run your own business, wear all the hats, and then kind of be this human, bearing up underneath all of that. Today's episode, what I wanted to do is get into perhaps this that I'm finding myself in at the moment is really needing to reboot my energy reserves. And also this other little bit about within these one-to-ones I've just been having, at least 3 people said to me, gosh, Shelley, you're so colourful, like, oh, you're so on brand, which is lovely to hear, right? But afterwards I thought, but this is what I look like every day. And then that triggered me into thinking, yay, I'm actually being more me every day. So of course I'm on brand because my brand is me, which is my whole message, right? In the work that I do. And hopefully you know that by now. If you're a regular on the show, you know that this is the place where we plop down on that cushy sofa and we have a little chat about all the ways in which our personal brand meets the humans we serve. And the conversational path I'm going to take you along with me today is around how we can utilize our personal brand work out in the real world. Sound good? What I'm going to do is bring together 2 things here. Okay, firstly, it is this personal brand piece, right? Which I go into in a lot more depth in episode 34, where I talk about how you actually shape a version of you that you're comfortable to be in and use to express yourself to the outside world. And then the other bit I want to marry with that is that conversation I had with Mai-Kee Tsang in episode 27, where we talked about her concept of sustainable visibility, where she talks about you creating your own personalized buffet of things and activities that bring you joy and light you up while you're trying to communicate or market to the world. Again, that's episode 27. So what I'm going to do is bring together those 2 things. And I'm going to use our time today to give you some takeaway ideas of the kinds of places where you can flex and exercise your newly defined personal brand. So now some of the things we'll talk about will be as natural as breathing, and you will have automatically have started to infiltrate whatever your personal brand means to you into those things. But there were other things you might not have even thought about. Or there might be things where, oh gosh, it's going to take a little more work in order to implement it. But hopefully it's all helpful, right? Okay, so let's get into it. Before we get to the actual list though, let's just give some context to the personal brand chunk, right? In case you hadn't listened to episode 34. So the main thing I just want you to hold on to for the purpose of this conversation is that personal brand strategy work is a structured exercise of working through and gaining answers to questions like how you came to be who you are today doing the work that you do, what makes you unique or different to others who do the same thing that you do, what's your big message that you want to get out to the world, how do you want to be perceived by others, and how do you want people to feel when they work with you. So that's a lot of what the personal brand strategy work looks like. Now, while all of that work is quite affirming and it brings about a certain amount of calm into your world because it gives you focus and you can get less anxious, what it's really helpful in doing is when you take that out into the everyday and you marry that with listening to Mai-Kee's advice on narrowing your focus on the things that will be of most value to you as a person, you will feel a lot more joy and calm in actually doing those activities as yourself. Now, when I work with a client on their personal brand strategy, at the end of that chunk of work, they get a physical document. I call it their personal compass, right? And it basically succinctly compacts all those crucial insights, realizations, and commitments all into one place. Now, what this basically helps them to do going forward is to really direct their energy and attention into the future, because they're going to only commit to things that they've already said are really dear to them and important to them. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, because there's two very smart reasons why you actually do the personal brand work. And the first one is, one, you get to be happier because you're being more you in your everyday. So you're naturally more energized about the work that you're doing. You just naturally light up to the outside world and you become a beacon for people who are looking for you. And the second secret, or smart reason, is that you are building in powerful, intangible things like tone of voice, feelings, words, visuals, and even experiences into the way you think, act, behave, and treat others. This means that you're tapping into your audience's emotional brain, or their limbic system, which will connect and resonate with you on a human level and help them to make the decision that you are the professional that they want to work with. Now, we're going to look at the many ways, spaces, and places you can ensure that you are permeating this personal brand into. Because when you do that and you action what's actually in that personal brand strategy, only then will you start to reap the benefits out in the real world. You can't just leave it as a file on your computer. Sound good? Excellent. Now let's get to the list. Now, as I work through the list, what I want you to do is think about, when is the last time that you actually reviewed one or more of these things, or even just refreshed them after deciding what your personal brand is and means for you. I'm going to categorize, I can't help myself, can I? I'm going to categorize this list into two chunks. Okay, assuming that you're running your own business, but if you are employed, what I'll do is just make anecdotal comments if there's something that I just need to tweak a little bit so it's still relevant for you. It's still important whether you are self-employed or employed. Our first chunk will be the bits and pieces that you do within your day around marketing, networking, connecting, or communicating with others. And the second chunk will be around those factors and opportunities that arise just by being you in your work world that affects things like your learning, key relationships, the risks and rewards that you need to weigh up as you go into the future, and so on. Now let's tackle the, I suppose, kind of the easier chunk first, and those are those daily bits and pieces. All right, so these are the places where you will want to check in and ensure that your personal brand is truly being reflected. So let's start. How many do I have here? 8. I have 8. Let's go through it. First one, your social media account bios. Nice, easy one to start with. Avoid putting your qualifications in your bio, right? Focus more on the positioning work that you've done in your personal brand strategy and update that. If you have a website and you have an about page or a bio, like on a meet the team page or something, again, try and make sure that it's written closer to what your positioning statement is. If you are self-employed and you have your own personal branded site, you may well be employed and have your own personal branded site, regardless. If you do, does the look, feel, and the copy, the words of the website actually match what's in your personal brand strategy? If not, update it. Fourth thing, drafted introductions. So this is when you get asked to guest for a blog or a podcast, and you're going to go onto a podcast as a guest. That intro that they read out, or the bio that they have on a guest blog post, is that again closer to what's in your personal branding strategy? Fifth thing, content themes. The things that you talk about in your social media accounts, even when you're out networking or talking to people, have those been updated closer to what you should be talking about, linked to your positioning, your values and principles that are all sitting in your personal brand strategy. Number 6, work documentation. This one gets missed. So things like your email signatures, any drafted emails that you have that you're about to send to clients or internally to peers or colleagues, and even reports that you put together, either again for colleagues or for clients. Are you using the tone of voice and the personality that you've articulated is yours? Number 7, daily processes and workflows. Another one that gets missed. Are people actually experiencing you the way you want them to, according to what you've decided are your experience traits? So how you want people to feel when they're talking or communicating with you. Sometimes just the order of a workflow or adding an extra touch point would make a difference and fulfill what you actually want people to feel. 8th and last one, marketing collateral. Obviously, if you're employed, this might not be so relevant, but if you're self-employed, you may well have a 60-second networking blurb that you say when you go to networking. Leaflets, flyers, business cards, brochures, adverts, anything where there's words or styling or visuals, anything that is expressing you to the outside world. Have a look at whether that actually matches what your personal brand strategy says. Now, of course, this list could go on, right? So I thought 8 was enough for now. Did any of those poke up any red flags for you that you thought, oh gosh, missed that, forgot about that bit. Oh, yep, I've done that bit. Which ones have you done? Which ones do you still need to look at? Now, let's move on to the second chunk of things. And I feel like this might be the place where you haven't even considered that your personal brand strategy could potentially help you with. Now, these are the factors and opportunities that arise by just being you in your work world. So these are the things that come up and they require you to say yes or no and prompt you to think about what you want to do and what fits with what you want from work and life, which will be in your personal brand strategy. Remember, we're using your personal brand strategy as a personal compass to keep checking yourself and guard what you have said is dear and important to you. Remember that. So here I'm just going to talk about 4 main things which I think are quite crucial here. Okay, first thing is where you want to develop new skills and potentially gain new knowledge. All right. What your personal brand strategy will help you to do is avoid being a magpie here and sign up to any new shiny thing. So if you're about to do that, go and look at your personal brand compass and ensure that whatever you're signing up to is aligned with what you have said will bring you closer to whatever your overarching purpose or your visionary goal is for the future. Second thing, building key relationships. Choosing the right people to connect with based on what your why is, what your values and principles are. These will actually guide you towards the right people that you are meant to be working with. Third thing, diversification of work. Now, your personal brand compass provides some perspective as to what opportunities may work well for who you are, how you see the world, and what your positioning is in the marketplace. You'll see what actually makes sense and definitely what does not. So when you do want to diversify, if you're looking at your values, your principles, the things that are important to you and where you're going, that diversification will either make sense or it won't. Basically, what's that? That's what that point covers. Partner relationships. Whew. Again, right people, right? So your personal brand strategy will give you insight into who would be a really good match to collaborate with you. Based on your strengths, your values, your personality and positioning, they might be complementary, supplementary. This way, you don't waste time and energy going down avenues that are just not a good fit for you. Whew, that was a lot, right? Thanks for sticking with me all the way through that. I'm hoping that your ears pricked up and thought about some things you actually haven't yet refreshed or updated with what you think your personal brand strategy is. And if there's something I didn't mention either, let me know, DM me. I'm very interested to add something to my list. Let me know if anything was useful there. Sometimes I just need to get these things out of my head and see if they actually help others. And if it was a useful share, come and chat to me, DM me, find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I am the only Shelley Rostlund out there. So who do you know that could do with hearing this topic as I've fleshed it out for you today and given you a list of going to look where you can actually permeate your personal brand into? And also, if you haven't reviewed the show yet and you would like to, because maybe you like the show, it would be wonderful if you can do that. It really does help us to grow the show, bring in more people into the conversation. And I'll tell you what, if you do a review, give me a screenshot, send me a screenshot, and I will send you a lovely limited edition podcast mug as well. I love a good mug, don't you? All right. Thanks again for listening, my friend. Until next time, stay strong, believe you have value, and make good brand decisions.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Compass. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your entrepreneurial friends and help them make good brand decisions. Until next time, let's keep the conversation going at 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗘𝗟𝗟.com.